Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
Teens share everything. That may include the bacteria that can cause meningococcal disease known as meningitis. Even if your teen's been vaccinated in the past, they could still be missing meningitis vaccinations. Ask your teen's doctor or visit meningitis.com today. Sponsored by GSK.
So hello and welcome to Vulgar History, a feminist women's history comedy podcast. My name is Anne Foster, and today we're talking about a queen from the ancient world, Queen Zenobia. And because it's the ancient world, and that's not particularly my area of expertise, I brought in a very special guest who longtime listeners will remember from her annual appearances, I guess. I feel like once a year you come on. It's Gina Berry. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. World famous author.
I mean, and you just said thank you. And you're such a popular guest. People are always asking when you're coming on again. So actually, I'm going to just tease this because we're not going to announce this until the end of the episode. But Gina and I have some exciting news about how you can hear more of me and Gina in another project. But we'll listen. Set aside your afternoon, people. If you're not familiar with the episodes that Gina and I do together, like this is going to be a couple hours at least. But your reward is like you get to hear us having a nice time. And at the very end, we're going to have a very exciting announcement. So stay tuned. So Gina, for people who don't know who you are, actually, I was trying to remember the episodes you've done before. I started inviting you on the show when I was doing the ancient world topics, just because instead of me messaging you and being like, Gina, can you explain this to me? I'm like, why don't I just get Gina on the episode to explain it to everybody? So like you've been on, we've talked about Nefertiti. You came up for the Hatshepsut episode. We did an episode just about what was life like for Roman women in the Roman Empire. We talked about Livia. You came in and gave your thoughts about Cleopatra. So kind of all the major female figures of the ancient world.
All the interesting ones, yes.
all the ones we know about, frankly.
Yes. And, that it's very funny that you say that, because I was thinking just the other day, how many women existed in history that did some amazing things that we don't know about, because either people just didn't take the time to record it, or someone found it and was like, oh, hell no, we can't let a woman get any kind of credit for anything, and they destroyed it. There's just probably masses of women that did things that we would still be in awe over thousands of years later that we'll just never know about. And that is really unfortunate.
It is true. And the women, I was thinking about this as well. I'll just tell everybody now. There's an episode of this podcast coming up in a bit where I'm talking with an author named Kate Williams, who wrote a book called Regina, which is a history of the world through female monarchs. And part of what she says in that book is she's talking about how, yes, this is a book about queens, and queens are kind of overrepresented in historical biography, but it's like often those are the only women you know about from an ancient culture. And that's because they can't avoid writing about them because they were the queen. So
yes,
what she talks about in her book a bit is like, well, if the only women we know about are the queen, but what can we discern from that about what the role of women was like generally in a culture based on how they treated their queen? So yes, we're talking about a queen today, but I think there's going to be so much about this story will kind of give us hints as to what was happening in a broader context for other women.
Right, exactly. And if you think about it, in those times, every woman knew the patriarchy ruled. And that was enough to scare 99% of them into being subservient. They didn't want to go against the grain. They didn't want to upset the men, because if they did, they knew there were going to be consequences. Then you have these handful of women that we know about that handed these men their ass on a regular, and they knew what the consequences would be, but they didn't care. They had the courage enough to do the things that they did, knowing it probably wasn't going to end well, but they were going to do it anyways because they felt like it was something they needed to do. And you have to commend the courage of these women and these various civilizations that rose up and said no more and did what they did. Those are the women that we really truly know about. But just think about how many women were actually helping those women in the background, that they weren't, at the forefront and be like, okay, here I am, look at me. They were still kind of doing some little shady shit in the background, trying to help these women get further along with whatever their crusade was. And so shout out from me to all these women that did these amazing things, all the women that were in the background that did these amazing things, because that took courage beyond belief. I'm not sure if I would, I have a bad attitude and I'll go against the grain in a heartbeat, but I'm not sure if I would have had courage enough to do it back then when I knew what the end result was going to be.
Well, and like the end result and the consequences in these ancient cultures, often for a woman who stepped out of line, is going to be execution. It's going to be, it's not just like, oh, you're going to be looked down upon by society. It's like, no, you will be potentially executed if you step out of line.
At the very least, tortured, and probably both. Because that's just the way it went for women that was considered to step out of line. And I just, like I said, hats off to them, because I love reading about the ones that went against what the patriarchy told them they needed to do. Because why did they have to submit? They didn't, so go for it.
Well, and this is, so Queen Zenobia, she's not at the exact same time as Cleopatra. We'll talk about this in a bit. Like, she claimed to be descended from Cleopatra. But there's a similar sort of thing with her, Zenobia, with Cleopatra, and with Boudica, who was the warrior queen in Great Britain. Because these are three women who led armies and stood up against Rome. And we've talked in our previous episode about how Rome was such a patriarchal society and women were so sidelined. So to Romans, to see a woman leading an army, a woman having like the faith of her people, like that was just, you couldn't bother them more than to raise an army with a woman at the head of it. And like these three were kind of like, we kind of know their names because they went up against Rome. And Rome was just like, what is happening? A woman leading an army? Like that's just like doubly making them angry, because Rome was such a patriarchal culture and these other places weren't necessarily.
Mm-hmm. And, there are civilizations that existed where the matriarchy was in charge, but you don't hear a lot about those because, to the victors go the spoils. The people that conquered the most were the ones that were going to write the histories that ended up lasting. So you don't hear about those as much. You only hear about the patriarchy. And Rome was probably the epitome of patriarchy when it came to any ancient civilization. There was no way around that one. It was always going to be men, and women served a purpose. They had kids and they took care of the households. I think the only reason why women continued to exist is because men realized there was no other way to keep the bloodline going. You have to have women. So they kept women around for just one thing and one thing only. Otherwise, they served absolutely no purpose to men. And that's sad because we're just so much smarter.
Cuter, more fun. Yeah, I was just thinking too, like the thing with Rome and the Roman Empire, which lasted for such a long time, part of why it's still thought of today is like, oh, wow, the Roman Empire. And we broke this down in a previous episode we did. Listeners, listen to the one about women in the Roman Empire. But when they lost, they wouldn't let anybody know that it happened. Like Rome just like really advertised when they did well. Yep. But they had battles that they lost. It's just like they just don't talk about it to make it sound. And especially if they lost a battle against a woman.
Exactly.
Like advertise that fact, because that would just call into question the entire basis of their society. Like they couldn't let anyone know. Yeah. And,
it was always the propaganda machine with them and in everything, because, if you think about it, people weren't privy to what actually was happening. So all they could go by was what they were being told. And if you were told Rome always won, if you were told women ain't shit, if you were told that it was a man they were fighting against instead of a woman, if you were told all this stuff, how could you refute it? They had no way of knowing. Just like we talked about when we were talking about Nefertiti, I believe. The general populace had no idea what the royal family looked like. They didn't have social media back then. They weren't posting like, hey, here I am. We're going to have a royal bash tonight. It wasn't like that. So the people that were tending the farms out, they had no idea what the royal family looked like. When it came to Rome, you could announce whatever you wanted on the steps of the Senate, and people only had that to go by. Now, I have to believe, and this is just me speculating because this is how I would look at it. I have to believe that there were plenty of women that called BS on a regular on what they were being told because they were somewhat privy to what was actually happening. So they would hear their husbands having conversations with other senators, other men of influence in the city. So they would kind of have an idea of, yeah, this isn't quite going as good as they're telling the people it is, but didn't say anything because they're like, you know what? Ain't got nothing to do with me. I got the household to take care of. I've got a party to plan. So, but I really truly believe there were plenty of women that would listen to what was being told and be like, yeah, I know that ain't it. So, but what could they do?
Well, and this is the thing too about how the records come down, and we're like listeners, we're talking about Rome a lot because that's who Zenobia goes up against in the story. But I think also like today we're looking at the records that Rome puts out, like the records that were kept at that time and how their stories and their legends were told. But you're exactly right, because like at the time they would be telling people like, oh, we're doing amazing with these amazing military victories. Rome is so great. I'm sure there were people in that time being like, are they? Like you were saying. But then now, like for the last whatever thousands of years, like we have these records that are like Rome is great, we're always victors. Like all we have are these records, these like PR records. So then you just think like, wow, everyone back then must have believed them. Like, no, of course not. Like people today don't believe headlines. Like we have eyes. Like we know that like groceries are expensive. We know that like gas prices are going up. It's like you can tell us that it's the best economy ever, but like it's clearly not.
Yeah, my paycheck ain't saying it's the best. So, and it's just like, I'm pretty sure there were probably plenty of the plebs that were like, we know this isn't happening because I talked to so-and-so who's a trader with so-and-so, and they told me what was really happening where they got the goods that they just brought to Rome. And so I know what they're saying up on the steps of the Senate is some bullshit because I was told by this person that knows this person that saw this person that it's not going like that. So, there were people that knew the truth, but again, how could they refute it? Because it was just word of mouth to a lot of the people that knew the truth. They weren't there. And how do you go up against the Senate? You can't. So they just kept their mouths shut, kept their heads down, and just did what they had to do to survive. And it's sad that maybe some of the things they might have written didn't survive because, like in Egypt, they find a little bit of graffiti and scribblings here and there.
I love the graffiti. Yeah.
And you find a little bit of it in Rome, too, where they found it where brothels were and whatnot. So it's really unfortunate that some of these other plebeians didn't have stuff that survived that really told a true picture of what life was really like instead of what Cicero wrote about the grand empire of Rome, So
I just want to say, like, Senna, like, again, like you, like Rome is like your thing. Like you've been interested in this for so long. But I will say, sometimes people ask me like, what got you interested in history? And I always say Pompeii. When I was like 6 or 7 years old, I had this like children's book about Pompeii. And I was obsessed with it. I would like take my dolls and act out Pompeii and like get my parents in to be like, hey, watch this production. I've made this production. And I would like act out the book because I just found it so fascinating that the whole city was just struck down in the middle of a day, and what you can learn about what the everyday people were up to because of it was all just crystallized in lava. Mm-hmm. And I think that's always been my interest in history is exactly that. Just like, what was it like for real people? And I love in Pompeii, like they're still excavating stuff and like they're finding these brothels, like people scratching the walls, just like, Claudius ain't shit. Like people are just like, like people are writing exactly what they were right now. I'm just like, this was just people. And I love that instead of like, oh, the great and grand Roman Empire. So like from age 6, like I've just been like, oh yeah, Rome, that was just kind of like, it was just like everybody. It was just normal people. And I love that approach.
It's just at another point in time in life, we'll get into other aspects of Rome that weren't quite as glorious and grand as they'd like to say. And it's not just with Rome, it's with Greece, it's with Sparta, it's with all of them that, whoever won the most, whoever felt like they were the strongest, who was ever most empowered, that's what exists for us to look at today. Everything else is kind of just speculation on some random ass stuff that we might have found here and there. I prefer to pay more attention to the random stuff because I think that gives a better tale. It's not sugar coated. It's not, oh, look at me, I'm so perfect. I like that random stuff, but it's just so few and far between that you find that stuff that you kind of have to just come up with your own ideas.
Well, and this is where, well, in terms of just what you were just saying, like piecing together the random stuff, because that's a lot of what the research on Zenobia is like. There's not as much specific information about her as there is about Cleopatra, for instance. But also what you were saying before about, like the senators might come out and announce like Rome is doing great, our economy is so good, and everyone's at home being like, is it? But at this point, so like Zenobia, she was born probably around something like 240 Common Era. So this is like the Roman Empire has been there for a minute. It's like been there it's spread so wide. So if you're talking about like the senators say this in Rome, like are they going to hear that on the far edges of like their spreads? Yeah. This is the point where like I think my understanding of the fall of the Roman Empire, which is not great, but what I know is they just spread themselves too thin. They couldn't stay on top of things when they're like going into like Western Europe. They're going over into like Eastern places, like they're getting into like around the Mediterranean. Like it's too much. You can't stay on top of it. And you can't, your messaging, which is like what you were saying, like if they're announcing this at the Senate, they're like, okay, send this to, it takes weeks or months maybe to get to these other places to be like, we had a great victory. It's like, that was 6 months ago. Who cares? Like you can't
exactly
be in charge of everything when you're that spread out. And that's part of how Zenobia's story comes in. Like this is not like Rome at its height of excellence. This is Rome where it's spread thin.
Because even though obviously 240 Common Era is like years ago, it's still the 3rd century. It's still not BC. It's still not ancient. So if you really think about it and you look at when the Roman Empire really did start falling, she's kind of right in the smack dab in the middle of when they really started to sort of fall apart. And so I'm not saying that necessarily made it any easier for her, because clearly it didn't, but it definitely took some of the difficulty away because Rome just wasn't at its height at that time.
Well, and if you're comparing her to the woman who she claims to have been her ancestor, Cleopatra, like Cleopatra's story is happening, well, now I forget, but when is that? Because that's not like...
wasn't Julius Caesar killed, what was it, 44 BC?
Yeah, so like around 30. So this is like 30 BC. So this is like 240, like 240. It's like 300 years after Cleopatra. So when I'm thinking about like the Roman Empire that I think about, like I, Claudius, my favorite TV show, or when you think about like I, Claudius, like that's around the year 30 CE. I know because like Jesus kind of shows up sort of. But when I think about the Roman Empire, I'm thinking about that kind of like zero, like from like 50 BC to like 50 CE is kind of the time period. This is 200 years later. Like that's the distant history. Like that's for us, that's like the 1800s. Like it's a long time ago.
Yes. and that's the thing. Yes, they did start spreading themselves thin, but also there were the people that they were fighting against, people they considered to be barbarians, people that weren't barbarians. They finally were like, you know what? It's been this many years. We're done with you. We're not gonna just sit back and act like we're scared of you anymore. People started really fighting back, which kind of ties into Zenobia. But it just, once people realized that they just weren't the might that they used to be, they started fighting back. They had all their little infighting going on in Rome, and there was no way they were going to last. They just weren't.
Well, and this is where I think it's like, if we can talk now about Zenobia, we'll talk in a bit about like who she was and where she's born and stuff. But like she claimed to be a descendant of Cleopatra, and that was partially because in Palmyra, where she is, modern day Syria, Cleopatra was seen as a hero because she stood up against the Romans. So during Cleopatra's time, and like listen back to our episode where we talk about Cleopatra, but like the Romans hated her. They wrote about her as being this like overly sexual, like horrible villain. Like all the records about Cleopatra were just saying like she, like all she did was have sex with people and she was so trashy, even though, as we talked about in that episode, Cleopatra was so educated and such a good politician and such a good leader. But it's interesting that Rome was like, Cleopatra was awful. And then Zenobia is like, actually, she was like, she's so not beloved, but just respected and admired, that she's like, if I claim that I'm descended from her, that'll make people respect me more. So outside of Rome, what Cleopatra's legend is like is so interesting to me because she was so vilified within Rome itself.
Yeah, and I believe I read that, there have been numerous plays written about her. There have been numerous movies and TV shows done about her that all done in the general area of where she was from, that just clearly shows that she was not forgotten by her people in the surrounding areas. She was important to them. Cleopatra was important to them. Yeah, she was kind of viewed as kind of a interloper because, she was a Ptolemy. She wasn't a full-blood Egyptian, but still, she was their queen, and they had a certain level of respect for her. It was the same with Zenobia. She'll never be forgotten. They'll keep her name going because she was just that important to them, and what she attempted, what she accomplished, was important to them. And so it really does depend on the area that a person is from, on how they're going to be remembered. She was known by a number of different names: a Greek version, an Arabic version, Italian version. She was known in many different ways, but ultimately Zenobia kind of flowed through on all of those interpretations of what her name could have been or how she would have referred to herself. And so if you look at her lineage, Zenobia goes back further than just her name. That's kind of like a name within the family a few generations back. So, I mean, how are they not going to latch onto that? How are they not going to uplift that? Because that is their history and they're proud of it.
Yeah, I think from what I've understood, just from what I'm reading, like Zenobia herself, it's like in modern day Syria, like she's on like banknotes. She's so respected. She's so famous in that part of the world to the extent that like Cleopatra is so famous in Egypt or Marie Antoinette is in France. It's like, this is our girl. Like, remember her.
Exactly. And so, I love that, because if you left it up to every place else in the world, she would have been forgotten by now.
No, exactly. I love that, like, she was kind of honoring the memory of Cleopatra, and then Syria continues to honor Zenobia, and it's kind of like outside of what Rome wants you to remember.
Oh yeah,
but like the people spread these stories regardless of what Rome wants you to talk about.
Yeah, well, screw them. We got what we got.
So Zenobia, we don't know a lot about her early years because unlike someone like Cleopatra, like she was not born into a royal family. We just know that she married into the royal family.
Yes. And, from what I read, it wasn't necessarily a royal family at first. It's sort of through, fighting and probably a lot of ass kissing, he kind of was bestowed, her husband was bestowed the favor of Rome. And think about it, getting the favor of Rome, that's kind of like if you were in the court of King Henry VIII and he bestowed some favor on you. I mean, people clamored for that kind of stuff. They would kill for that kind of thing to get the favor of the ruling entity. And so being given that favor by Rome, that elevated him above everybody else, that gave him privileges that no one else had. And so when she married into that, I mean, she, as far as that goes, she kind of hit the jackpot because you're not going to get any higher than that.
In this time, in this place, yeah. And so, you're right. So, like, a good clarification, he's not king. He's more just like in charge of the city. So I don't know if it's like a governor or if it's kind of like a mayor, but he's kind of like, Palmyra is this important place, and he's in charge of it to some extent.
Yeah, it was an eastern province of Rome. And so in their eyes, in the way that they handed out titles, he would have been like more of a governor. But in their native lands, in their native language, in their native way of doing things, he called himself King of Kings. And from what I understood, Rome allowed that because that was just there within their own little section of the world that he referred to himself that way. He was still subservient to Rome, and he never tried to act like he was any higher up than them. So they allowed him to go ahead and have those titles because they didn't give a damn about those titles because they didn't have anything to do with them in Rome. So he held basically two types of titles, a local title and a Roman title. And the local title, he called himself King of Kings, and his family was royalty. And so obviously if he's a king, then she's naturally going to be crowned the queen because that's his wife. So, and she was his second wife. I also read. I didn't know that until I was reading, but it goes along with how they ruled their kingdoms internally and externally. And it was always, from what I understand of everything that I've ever read, is vastly different on how they viewed themselves internally and externally. Because he never wanted to piss off Rome because Rome was mighty.
And we've been mentioning her husband. So his name is, I'm going to take a real swing here.
Yes.
Odianthus.
It's good enough for me. I couldn't tell you how to say it.
I don't know, but that's just so we know, that's his name. And this, I think it's also interesting that she's the second wife and she got married probably when she was a teenager, maybe as young as 14. So presumably this was some sort of either she would have been from some sort of notable family or something, like why would this King of Kings have chosen her? But also her youth means probably she was married to be like a baby making machine, like some young fertile.
Yeah, because from what I could find, he only had one son before her, and that was never enough. You had to have the heir and the spare, at least, if not more. So she absolutely was married off to try to provide him more heirs because they always wanted to make sure that their throne was solid. But the funny thing about that is I reading more in depth on how they did things internally. The throne, the crown, wasn't a hereditary thing there. So none of his sons were guaranteed to come behind him. It was more of a whoever was the strongest kind of ended up taking the throne. And so I get wanting to have as many sons as possible because they could fight to keep the throne within the family, but it was not an automatic hereditary thing. And that's interesting because not a lot of kingdoms worked that way.
Well, I was thinking, at first I'm like, oh, well, that's good. I like that. But then I'm just like, no wonder not a lot of kingdoms were that way. Because then it means every time the king dies, there's going to be a civil war. Like you want to have some sort of stability, which is why it gets into like the oldest son. And that's why so many cultures do that, I would imagine.
Because who needs that chaos every time someone dies? Because back then you never knew when someone was going to die. Yeah. You could live to be 80 or you could die at 20. You never knew. And they would die from some of the simplest things. I mean, didn't the Dauphin die from a ear infection? So,
no, exactly. It's just like people, it really depends about the medical knowledge or whatever, but there's so many plagues happening all the time, so many epidemics, and just like blood infections, like with all these wars.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I want to mention what we know a bit about, what we can piece together about her education and her youth. She certainly seems to have been educated to some extent. So this tells us that this is a culture in which young women were given education. So apparently she was an accomplished writer. She loved hunting. She was fluent in Egyptian and Syrian, which would have been her native language. She could also speak Greek and Latin, and she was tutored by a distinguished philosopher. So I appreciate this is giving me Cleopatra a little bit. Just with like learning the local language, learning other languages, like this sets you up in a way that not everybody would have been multilingual like this. Like this means that she can communicate with lots of different people, which is going to be helpful.
Right. And that was another thing in most societies. They didn't allow the young ladies to learn this stuff. It was only the men. Well, I'm sorry, you guys were always so involved in other things. Had you allowed these young ladies to learn this stuff and sort of at least have not necessarily like the end negotiations, but at least some sort of conversations with other people, you probably would have been so much better off. But you were limiting yourself by not allowing them to learn it, and you were the only one that could do it. Well, you can't be in two places at one time. So either you want to be on the Senate floor arguing about something petty, or you want to be negotiating with someone to get a better trade or something like that. They didn't think things through to the end. They get to a certain point and they stop. I did that with my kids all the time. You say you want to do something, think that through to the end. think all the way through, and then so you get to the end result. What do you think that's going to be, or what do you want that to be, and then adjust accordingly. They never thought to the end, so that's why they're just stupid. I'm sorry, I'm not even on a tangent. They're just stupid.
We're just saying, to be clear, the Romans is who you're talking about.
Yes, the Romans.
Because what I'm seeing in Zenobia is like what we can glean from what we know about her is like she was given this education. So presumably other girls are given this education. So this is an area in which this culture was thinking through to the end in a way that the Romans weren't. Like they were educating their young girls, at least the upper class young girls, which Rome was not up to.
And, education is, even to this day, education will take you a long way. So, they just, by keeping them what they considered to be ignorant, you were just shooting yourself in the foot on that one. But whatever.
Well, and then also this is where I think Rome gets surprised whenever a woman like Cleopatra or like Zenobia stands up against them. They're like, what? Yep. Women are intelligent? Like, what? But that's not how we thought anything worked. Like it shocks them every time.
And we even talked about this when we were talking about Cleopatra. Neither one of us believes that it had anything to do with the way she looked that intrigued Julius Caesar. He was a very intellectual man. Everything we know about him, it was all about intellect with him and planning and scheming and plotting. And she was smart. And I think that is really what truly intrigued him, is he could have an intellectual conversation with this young woman. And he was probably like jaw on the ground the whole time that she was able to keep the conversation going with him, because it was something he just wasn't used to. So it was sort of a novelty to him to have this woman that he could talk to that he would never admit it was on the same level as him. And I mean, your stupidity was your downfall, because you set yourself up for failure on that one, because you never allowed something like that to be commonplace in your world. And it was such a novelty to you that you got caught up in that, and everything started falling apart after that.
But this is also where it's interesting that Zenobia, I mean, at this point, we don't know a lot about her early life. Like later on is when she starts saying that she's descended from Cleopatra, because that was a person who was admired in her part of the world. So I would presume, for the reasons you're saying, like because Cleopatra was known to be intellectual and smart and talent, not like, oh, she was so sexy, which is like how Rome kind of diminished her in their writings to downplay how important and powerful she was. But so that also gives a hint, I think, to me, just about what this in Palmyra, what it was like for a young woman, like to idolize or to look up to Cleopatra, someone who stood up against Rome and was really smart. I think that's interesting.
If you have basically a role model like that, if you grow up in a more affluent family, you marry into an even more affluent family, and you have someone like that as a role model, you start getting the same mentality that Hat got, whereas it's inevitable for you to be at a certain level in your life, because you don't see failure anywhere else. You only see progression. You only see, I'm winning. So if that's what she was surrounded by, and that's what she really looked up to, it's no wonder she ended up being what she ended up being.
No, exactly. And that was such a memorable moment. Just I was remembering in our episode about Hatshepsut, I forget, I said something like, wow, Hatshepsut, she saw the women around her being successful and she saw what was possible. And you were like, no, she saw it was inevitable. She saw, and people were like, put that on a t-shirt. It's like, it was such a wise thing you said, but I feel the same thing with Zenobia. Like you just said, it's like when you have these role models, and that's why I think it's important nowadays for people to be revealing themselves as role models for the next generation, to see that people can achieve and can have this success. Because if you don't see it, then you just never think you can. But when you see it enough, then it becomes inevitable. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's what, I mean, obviously, and who am I to, judge anyone, but she might have had ideas in her mind of how much further she wanted to go. She might have had ambitions that she didn't necessarily, verbalize to anyone. But if she had any of those types of ambitions, combine that with everything that she saw, she was going to end up being the Zenobia that we were talking about.
So if one of the reasons why she was married to this guy she was maybe 14, he was maybe 35. And it does seem like she did have numerous children. So we know for sure she had a son whose name was Vabalathus.
That's another one I'm not going to attempt.
Vabalathus. Anyway, so she had a son, probably 2 other sons, possibly some daughters. One source suggests that she had 7 children, potentially. We don't know exactly, but we do know that she was a mother as well.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to give a bit of background. So Palmyra, which is in modern day Syria, at this point, it was a city of around 200,000 people, which in the ancient world, I feel like that's about as big as a city can be, really.
Outside of Rome, yes.
Outside of Rome, yeah. So, and maybe some of Egypt. So, one of the most significant trade hubs in the ancient world, a stop for merchants traveling between Rome and the East. It's right on the Silk Road, which is the trade route from east to west, carrying silks from China and spices from India to Europe. So, Rome had everything I just said. It's like where it's located, like its proximity to trade. So, Rome, like Rome did, like they seized it. They took control of the space because they wanted to have a hand in all of this trade and everything that was happening.
But if you think about this place, yeah, they wanted it for the trade routes, because obviously that's going to make them money. But think about the actual area that it was. They had everything that they needed to survive there. And one interesting fact that I read, that their water source was an abundant spring. Like, it provided more than enough water for everything that everybody did. That thing didn't completely dry up until 1994. 1994. That's just a long ass time for this spring to be providing water. So, what are the main things that you need for a civilization to survive? You need food and you need water. And they had the abundance of that. They technically didn't need Rome in any way, shape, or form. They had trade. They had a decent sized army, because the Persians were always trying to invade. So they had a decent sized army to protect themselves. They had food. They had water. They had everything they needed to survive without Rome. Rome was just bigger than them. That's why Rome was able to annex them. Otherwise, they would have been perfectly fine without Rome. Some of these smaller places probably allowed Rome to come in because they felt that life would be a little bit better with the Romans, because, Romans just kind of brought a level of civility with them that some of these places may not have had. Palmyra was not that person.
Yeah.
They had everything they needed. They just didn't have the might that Rome had.
Well, and this is where I'm just looking at this part of the history. So in 260, Common Era. So the Persians and Rome were longtime enemies of each other. There was this battle, and Zenobia's husband, King Odeanthus, so he kind of had a choice to make. It's like, does he side with the Persians or does he side with the Romans? And he chooses to go to battle against the Persians. Like, he's siding with Rome. So there's these 2 powerful groups, and he just kind of needs to side with one of them because their army, I guess, is not enough to have like a 3-way war. But out of this, he regained all the territory of the Roman Empire in this area that had been taken by the Persians. And so this is where he becomes known as king. So it's kind of like he's still serving Rome. He's like a client king, which is sort of what Cleopatra was in Egypt too, right? Where it's like, you're the local king, but like Rome is still above you. Like, you're serving Rome.
And as long as he didn't try to overstep with that title, Rome allowed it, because they figured he's doing what we need him to do. He's protecting our asset against the Persians and any other place that comes to try to conquer them. So all of our assets are safe as long as he can call himself king whatever he wants to, as long as he doesn't put himself on coinage that contradicts what's really happening with Rome. So they let him call himself whatever he wanted. And ultimately, it's kind of like I always say, when your kids are little, or young adults, they don't necessarily want to pay towards living in the house. They don't want to pay towards the electric bill and the mortgage and all that. And they just automatically know you live there too. You're not going to let the lights get cut off because you need the electricity too. It was kind of the same way with Palmyra. They might not have liked what Rome was doing, but they lived there and they needed to protect themselves. So they protected themselves against the Persians, which ultimately helped Rome, because Rome didn't have to send anybody to fight the Persians. They would do it for them. So it was kind of a win-win for Rome. It was kind of a messed up situation for Palmyra, but they had to do what they had to do to survive. And unfortunately, that was doing what Rome wanted them to do and fight against the Persians.
Well, and in terms of fighting against the Persians too, I just want to note, like, again, so much of like we're just kind of like filling in the blanks of like what seems likely, but we do know later on Zenobia, spoiler, is going to become a military leader. So she almost definitely was with her husband when he was going on military campaigns because she learned how to do that really well somehow. So presumably she was out there with him.
Yep.
Like a true warrior queen. And at the point where he became kind of king, but under the Romans, this makes her queen at this point, but still under the Romans. Yeah.
And as long as everything looked to be under the Romans would let you be. As long as they were getting their taxes, as long as they had their lands, as long as they could stand there and boast, we are in charge. They didn't care what you did.
And you mentioned coins before. It's been a minute on this podcast since I love when people in the ancient world just like mint coins as like a PR move. I love like coins. Like, I'm going to mint a coin and everyone's like shocked. Like, oh my God, what did she put in the coin? Like, I love a coin minting moment. And there is that. So Zenobia's husband, Odeanthus, he minted coins with the Roman emperor on one side. Basically with just the Roman emperor on one side. So he's like, see, I'm totally like Rome. That's what's on our coins. Don't worry about me. Like, yes, I call myself King of Kings, but not really. Like, I totally love Rome. So he's just kind of minting these coins to just sort of make himself seem like, oh no, I'm not really in charge, you guys. Don't worry about it.
All you have to do is placate Rome, honestly. They, depending on how far away you were, they didn't get that involved. So as long as you looked like everything was on the level, they didn't care. They had bigger fish to fry. They didn't care because in the middle of all of this, they were still fighting the Goths because the Goths kind of, threw down the gauntlet. It was like, we're done with this. We're coming after you. So who are you going to fight? Palmyra, who has a small army, or the Goths who were tearing into you? I'm probably going to focus on the Goths.
Right, exactly. And this is, again, where Rome is like overly extended. Like, they have to fight this war here, they have to fight this war here, they have to fight this war here. Like, they're constantly, because their borders, the lands that they had claimed were so widespread, like they're always at war. So if they have this guy in Palmyra who's like, totally, don't worry about me, I love Rome, like, look at my coins, like, yeah.
Exactly. I did read at one time, though, that it was so bad that they, quote unquote, forgot to send out tax collectors and other military heads to double check to make sure everything was going the way they wanted it to in Palmyra, which probably led to progression of how many more titles he started giving himself because Rome wasn't paying as much attention. If you haven't seen a tax collector in a year, you're going to be like, oh, well, screw this. I'm King of Kings,
Exactly. So he's got this kind of delicate balancing act he's doing, but that comes to an end when he is murdered. Odeanthus.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is like around 267, 268. Who murdered him? We don't know. Perhaps it was the Romans, perhaps it was the Persians. Just the way that he's kind of like been playing both sides here, I guess 3 sides really, where he's just kind of trying to placate everybody. That just rubbed enough people the wrong way that he was killed. There are rumors that Zenobia was maybe, I don't believe that.
I don't either. And I read the reasoning behind why the person that wrote what I was reading, he gave his reasoning behind why he didn't think she was behind it. And it makes total sense. Her son, her oldest, so the one that she would have taking over, was like between 8 and 10 at the time. Why would you kill him when you've got this child who can't really take over? You would wait a little bit longer. Let him get to at least maybe 15 or 16 before you execute a plot like that. So it's just that right there alone, it was enough for me to be like, yeah, I don't think she had anything to do with that.
No, exactly. And she didn't need to. Anyway, what happens is he's executed and somehow she's agreed upon as regent.
Mm-hmm.
She's the wife of the king. So then they kind of name her regent. I presume her son, like, even though it's not you described, like, it's not necessarily the hereditary thing, but I think just they're in the middle of a war. They're like, yeah, this 8-year-old will be the king, the new king of kings, this little boy. And she'll be the regent, but she was really in control.
Yeah, and I read also that no one went against her. None of the other local heads of anything within the kingdom, no one in the military, no one said, "Oh no, I think so and so would be a better leader than her." No one went against her. Everyone just accepted it. She had
Mhm.
no opposition. And to me, that is amazing because, like I said, the son was only between 8 and 10 years old. So it wasn't necessarily about him to them because they knew he wouldn't technically be ruling, it would be her. So to be on that good a standing with literally everyone,
After, like, upon your husband's assassination.
where they could maybe speculate that you did it, but yet everyone was still on your side. No one came against you.
Yeah,
That's no, I want her PR team because I'm
yeah.
sorry. That was a hell of an accomplishment.
And I think part of it too has to have been like behind the scenes, like the people, the influential people, the powerful people. She would have had relationships with them. Like she's
Mhm.
been the queen here for a decade plus. Like to the point where they all knew they could count on her, that they were all on her side. Like she must have had such good relationships with everybody. Like they
Yeah.
assassinated her husband, they could have assassinated her, they didn't.
Yeah, because I
So
mean, she was right there with the army at the time that it happened, from what I understand.
yeah,
And so, if the army didn't like her, armies are the ones that put a lot of people on the throne over time, no matter what the civilization was. Armies put you on the throne, and the army put a lot of the succeeding emperors on the throne over the years. So if they didn't like her, they could have just offed her right there. No one would have
mhm,
thought anything of it, and they could have put forth whoever they thought was better. So clearly, the army thought, if you've got the army behind you, you've got everything, honestly. And they were behind her, so she, I mean, she just walked into it. She, wherever it was they were during that battle, when she got back, she just walked right up and sat on the throne. She had no one to stop her. And
it's amazing. Like we never see this.
yes,
We never see this happening. But I think this also speaks to this culture that we still don't know a lot about just because of the records and who's studying it and whatever. But like this ancient Palmyra, like again, it has to have been a society where women were regarded
mhm.
to such an extent that everyone was like, oh, well, we can't have a woman in charge. Like everyone's just like, no, it's, yeah, she can be in charge. That's fine. The fact that everyone was fine with it means that that society must have been.
Yeah, and she had proven herself in
Yeah.
some way. We don't have any details of what she did throughout her life. Like when we were talking about Livia, she would go and she would give food to the poor and all that kind of stuff. She was all out in society. Everyone saw her. We don't have any record of what Zenobia did, but she would have had to have done a lot of good things, a lot of positive things for everyone to just be on board instantly.
Yeah, this is such a defining moment for her. Like there's been so many in these women's stories in the ancient world where we've talked about like Cleopatra or Hatshepsut. It's kind of like how they came to power. There's a lot of sort of like strategizing and like who there's factions and not everyone supports it. But Zenobia, you're right. It's just like she walks right off the battlefield, sits on the throne, and it's like, okay, let's go.
Right.
I've got, like, and everyone's like, great, what do you want us to do? Like it just all happens. Like
No, that's
amazing.
a shirt you need to have. You never sitting on the throne and be like, let's do this.
Let's But what I love about her, so like we talked about her education and stuff. So she initiated a court in Palmyra of philosophers and scholars. She invited illustrious men to debate religious questions. Like she's starting up kind of like a university sort of vibe where it's just like, let's like education is obviously so important to her and to this culture.
Mhm.
And so she's just like inviting people in, like, let's talk about this. Let's have these debates. But most importantly, she presented herself like as this queen. And she, unlike what her husband had been up to, which potentially led to his death, where he was like, oh yeah, I'm chill with Rome. She's just like, I'm against Rome. Like we're going to go, like Rome, don't fuck with us. Like we're going to war against Rome. And that's what she decides to do.
Yeah, and another thing that I read about her too is, and this goes along the lines with everyone supporting her, if the people of whatever city, whatever province had a problem with the people that were in charge, the governors, the prefects, whoever, if they had a problem with them, they would send in complaints to Rome and be like, you need to replace them or you need to get them under control, whatever. No one complained about her. No one about anything. So, I mean, I'm not saying she's perfect. I'm just saying that she seemed to know what she was doing because no one had a problem with her. No one complained about her. Everyone followed her. I gotta know how she did it. I mean, Anne,
Yeah.
come on. I gotta know how she did it, because imagine what I could have if I could convince everyone of everything that I'm saying. That would be amazing. But she really did. She just was in charge of everything, and everyone was just cool with it. And I don't know how you do that in that time as a woman.
Yeah. And I also think it's really interesting that one of the things everyone was on board with was she was just like, we're going against Rome. We're going to break off from Rome. And I don't know if it's just like everyone in Palmyra had been so sick of being under Rome's thumb. Like when she decided to do that, is that what won everybody over? They're like, finally, we have a leader who's going to like cut us off from Rome. And everyone was just happy someone was finally doing it. And it happened to be her. I don't know.
Could be. I'm sure that probably played a big part in it, because, I mean, if I get tired of something and someone comes along and proves that they can take care of it, I'm going to let you take care of it. So that probably played a huge part in it.
Then there's another major coin minting moment, which I live for. So she ended the production of the coins with the Roman emperor on, which is like this is her. She's like, I'm serious about this. And this is how, like, minting coins is a way to communicate a message like beyond the borders of just like,
yes,
because everyone has currency. Everyone's going to see, oh, weird. Okay, the coin doesn't have the Roman emperor on. Like, this is how you communicate to your city. Like, we're not part of Rome anymore. Like this.
Yep.
In this time, this is all you can do. And now for a quick advertising break.
Starting or growing your own business can be intimidating and lonely at times. Your to-do list may feel endless with new tasks, and lists can easily begin to overrun your life. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything as a built-in business partner can be a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Gymshark, Rare Beauty, and Heinz, to brands just getting started. Shopify has hundreds of ready-to-use templates that can help you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. And you can tackle all the important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. And if people haven't heard about your brand, you can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you, with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns to reach customers wherever they're scrolling or strolling. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. That's shopify.com/realm.
Suffering from dry, tired, irritated eyes? Don't let dry eyes win. Use Systane Pro. It hydrates, restores, and protects dry eyes for up to 12 hours. Systane Pro. Triple action dry eye relief.
Hey, I like your new RAV4.
Thanks, yours too.
What does RAV stand for anyway?
To me, it's the Remarkably Advanced Vehicle.
Really? To me, it's the Runway Approved Vehicle for its amazing style.
What about Remarkably Adaptable Vehicle because of its versatile cargo space?
Or Really Admired Vehicle?
Oh, or Really Awesome Vehicle.
It really is the recreational activity vehicle. The stylish 2026 Toyota RAV4 Limited. What's your RAV4?
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
And we're back. Meanwhile, the guy who had been the Roman emperor, Gallienus, was assassinated. Like, this is just what a tricky time to be a leader.
And, from everything I've ever seen about him, and you don't really see too much about him because he was a dork, he just was not, he was not a strong man. He wasn't feared in any way. He was considered to be an extremely weak leader. And I've also kind of gleaned a little bit that's why the Goths started attacking the way they did. It's because no one viewed him as a challenge. And so for him to get murdered, I'm surprised he even lasted as long as he did, if he was considered to be that weak, because they didn't put up with weakness when it came to being in charge of Rome. If you were weak in any way, either your mama was going to have you taken out, or your cousin was going to have you taken out. Someone was going to take you out. You just didn't last long if you were weak. And so he was weak, and he was probably, they probably wouldn't admit it, but he was probably an extreme turning point in the Roman Empire, when you had someone where everything was happening kind of all at one time. You were spread so thin, you had everyone fighting back, and you were that weak. That was probably an extreme turning point where everyone was like, you know what? We need to go ahead and start fighting against them, because we might actually win now, because they're kind of not what they used to be.
Well, it's the ancient Roman version of just kind of like, this is not the leader we need. Like nowadays, you see, like maybe a political party will force their leader to step down or something.
Yeah.
It's like, this is not who we need to win this next campaign. In ancient Rome, the version of that is just like, we need a strong military leader, so let's just kill this guy.
Yep.
What you do.
And that was the solution to everything back then. If things weren't going the way you wanted it to, you just kind of killed the person and then moved on to the next one. And I'm really thankful they don't do that anymore. But I mean, it was effective, but it's just, it was a really messed up way.
Well, because the next emperor is Claudius II, also known as Claudius Gothicus. And he's like a warrior. He's like a military commander. He's a much more threatening enemy. Like, it was one thing for Zenobia to be like, yeah, we're going to break off from Rome. I'm minting my coins. Like, Palmyra is its own thing when Gallienus is the emperor. But now when it's this guy, Claudius II.
Yes. And, the funny thing about that is I read in another passage that he was a lot stronger. And there's speculation that she had already started fighting back when he was in charge, but they didn't want to admit that he had any kind of weakness. So they pushed her back to the previous emperor. So to say, oh yeah, well, he was weak, so that's why she started fighting back. And then Claudius kind of started to initiate, going against her. Whereas some of the timing didn't really fit, whereas he actually allowed her to do some of the things that she was doing. And no one wants to admit that, because he didn't last very long either. So, how can you go against it? But I don't know. I mean, it depends on where his priorities were. Was she a priority in a small province of theirs, or was fighting off everybody else that was coming at you from every other section? Probably them over her. I don't know. We don't know exact timing of everything, but they tried to say that she made her move under the weak emperor, not the strong one. But there's others that saying, no, it was Claudius. He underestimated her, and he paid for it.
And if you want to remember Claudius II as this great military commander, you can't show that she struck first, like when he was there. It just makes him look weaker. So it's like, let's just like play around with this timeline a bit to make him seem a bit stronger.
I mean, it's all about, we can't prove it. They wrote whatever made them look good, like they always did. And this is what you end up with. I truly believe she was kind of making her moves under both of them. They just kept underestimating her, and they ended up regretting it.
I have exciting news, Gina, which is a third coin minting moment.
Next time I see you, I'm going to see a bunch of coins behind you.
I love a coin. Actually, sidebar. So a couple months ago, I went on a trip to England, and I went to Bath, which is was the ancient Roman Bath. And there's these ruins you can visit and stuff. And one of the things they have in kind of their museum part is something happened. Well, first of all, there's sort of almost sort of a Roman version of a wishing well, where they just found, here's all the things that we found in this wishing well. And I thought, it's like, was it a wishing well, or it's just people just drop things? But then you see the stuff, you're like, oh no, this is clearly people were asking the gods for favors. And so there's here's all the coins we found. And they're from all different reigns and eras. You would love it, I think, to see all the different
that
eras.
Would be cool.
Some of them, it's these are actually fake coins. So it's with someone trying to impress a girl to be oh, look at this, I'm going to throw this coin in, but it's actually just made of aluminum or whatever. It's these are fake, fraudulent
I'm so
coins.
super rich that I can just throw away my coins.
It's just fake coins. I'm oh my gosh. And then there was this one thing, I'm not sure what happened. Something happened where there's just some archaeologists were digging and they found like this big wad of just like coins all stuck together. They'd all like, because of some weather event or something, like they all melted together and like they can't be separated. But so it's like some stash. It wasn't in the wishing well. It was like under a house or something. It's like somebody's like secret stash of coins. But like what happened? So it's just this wad of coins. And they're like, we kind of looked at them and we looked and you can see like all the different, so there's like timelines of like, when was this city in use and how old were the coins people were using. If you're a coin fan, go visit the Roman Boston Path because there's some real coins.
That's funny. But you know, that's the thing. That was the only way that anyone had any sort of visual of who was in charge.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and even it wasn't like an exact likeness, but that was the only way that
the name was on it.
Yeah, that was the only way anyone could ever tell who was in charge. And they would always know if you'd been carrying around coins too long because you'd have the wrong person's face on your coins. So, I mean, that was their propaganda back then, it was coinage because you had no internet, you didn't have newspapers, you didn't have anything else but the coins to spread the word on who was in charge.
Well, if you'll recall, the first coin moment was her husband was like, here's a coin and it's got Roman emperor on it. We're cool with Rome. Then Zenobia then they start the coin with just her husband's face. And now she puts out a coin with just her son's face. So this is like...
I think you missed a coin. You missed a coin because there was one, if I remember correctly, there was one that had the emperor's face on it on one side. And on the other side, I think it was like a lion or something. And in their culture, that represented the king. And so he didn't have his face on there, so he could still say, no, you're in charge. But representation within their society, the king.
They would all know what he meant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was his first step of trying to say that I'm just as high up as you.
Well, and then you can see if you go from that sort of like, well, here's just a line. And then it's like her son's face is on the coin. Like, this is making a huge statement, being like, this who's in charge here. Like, local people, not Rome at all. So this is, the word gets back to the Romans. Claudius II, as you mentioned, like he does not live long. He ends up dying of plague.
Of all the things to be taken out by, if you were that powerful of a man and you get taken out by the plague, that's just kind of like saying, I got stung by a bee and I died. I mean, it was some of these really powerful people got taken out by the smallest things that, I mean, I'm not saying the plague was small, but honestly, you would not expect someone of his stature to be taken out by the plague of all things.
Mm-hmm.
You think he'd have been protected against that?
Well, you would, because it's like, this is your emperor. This is supposed to be the most powerful person there is. But this is like the timing of it, to be taken out by the plague in the midst of, like, he's overextended fighting all these battles, the Goths versus everybody. So the heir to like the next emperor is going to be his brother. But this was contested because Rome is just like a mess. Like it's not like Zenobia. The brother's not just going to slide in there and everyone's cool with it. Like in Rome,
there's always a power vacuum with Rome when it comes to who's going to be in charge next. It was never a clear cut that, okay, they're next. There was always some sort of contention there.
But this is where like Zenobia sees her chance. Like she finds out like there's this power vacuum. There's kind of not unclear who is the emperor of Rome. And so then she launches her attack on Egypt. So this is where she leans into the like, I'm the descendant of Cleopatra. So she had supporters in Egypt. Egypt wanted to be freed from Rome. And she's somebody else coming in. And this is where I love this about her. Not just that she claimed like, I'm the descendant of Cleopatra, which she could have been. Cleopatra had her daughter, Cleopatra Selene, who's married to I forget it was a prince. But anyway, she went off to Juba. She probably had children. We don't know the lineage from there. Like, maybe Zenobia was descended from her, but she just claimed this connection to Cleopatra. And the people in Egypt had fond memories of her clearly because they were ready to like go to war with Zenobia against Rome.
And that's the thing. She, quote unquote, took over, but she didn't have to massacre half of the population to do it. She was somewhat welcomed. It wasn't a complete takeover. It wasn't I'm invading you and I'm going to take all your stuff. She came in, she could speak Egyptian. That right there worked in her favor.
Like Cleopatra. Yeah.
So they walk in and they're like, we aren't going to make you like our subjects, like to the point that Rome did. We're going to work with you on this and let's combine. We've got shipping and trade. You've got shipping and trade. We can combine it and we can all be rich. Come on, get on board. I mean, I have no doubt that she walked in like that and was like pointing out all the good things that could happen to them by being under her rule. Because I didn't read anything that said that they had these long battles for her to conquer them. It wasn't a conquer. It was kind of more of a just melding of two areas.
Egypt was just like, come on in, please.
Yes.
Like, we're tired of Rome too. Like, make us some coins. Like, let's get this done. So she had her best general, Zenobia's best general was called Zabdas. So he comes into Egypt. He invades with 70,000 men. They overpower the Romans. They took over Alexandria, left 5,000 troops behind. And then after a second battle with Egypt's Roman governor, Tenagino Probus, lost. He kills himself, which is like what Roman generals do when they're
dishonored.
Yeah. So he dies, and all this means that Zenobia is now the queen of Egypt, the first queen of Egypt since Cleopatra.
And the funny thing is if you look at a map and you see how far away Egypt is from Palmyra, that is a long distance. She had a good sized kingdom once she got a hold of Egypt. She commanded a vast amount of land. That's going to put up some red flags for the people that considered themselves to be the major landowners of the world. But the thing is if you can cover that much space as a woman in the 3rd century and you don't have anyone fighting against you besides the Persians who were fighting against pretty much everyone, you're doing something right.
Well, and it's not just like, it's such a huge amount of land, and it's like the best land. It's like Egypt is fertile, the agriculture. Palmyra's got the trade routes. Like, these are like the 2 places you want. Like, these are the best 2 places to have. And this is your kingdom.
And that is, again, hats off. I don't know how you do it, but she did it.
I think part of it too, like, she's got this guy Zabdas, who's like her most trusted general. Like, her people have her back. And I think that's so huge and so clutch, because even like, well, Cleopatra, it's a very different story with Cleopatra, because but because they were the Ptolemies in Egypt, like the people of Egypt didn't super support Cleopatra entirely because she was kind of an outsider. But Zenobia, it's just like everyone, like the generals, the armies. And maybe this traces back to her with her husband being out there on the battlefield, but people respected her as like a warrior, as a leader. Like, we never see this, Gina, in these stories of like, all these men are just like, hell yeah, we will go to war and die for her. Like, that's never happens.
And because of that is one of the main reasons why we don't have more information on her, because there was probably a boatload of information that did exist on her. And once these patriarchal men started reading it, they're like, oh, no, we can't know.
You can't let anyone know this happened, because women might start getting ideas.
Exactly. So I'm fairly sure that there was stuff all over about her, and every time that it was found, because I mean, the Roman Empire still existed for quite a bit of time after her. So I'm pretty sure anytime they came across anything, anywhere that they were, they just automatically destroyed it because it made them look bad. And you can't make them look bad. That was not accepted.
And this is where, like we talked at the beginning, like the story of Zenobia is still so potent in Syria and in these areas. Like, she's remembered, like, even though Rome is like, let's just not talk about it, like in Syria, they wouldn't forget it. Like, and that's how the story continues.
That's that thing where you have the generational thing going on, where you have grandpa told the story, and then it just keeps going from generation to generation. That's how they kept her alive, is they revered her enough to where that was a generational story, because there's nothing else out there that's going to really show that she existed. There's a few bits and pieces here and there. That was all word of mouth. That was all a generational story, because they took pride in that. And that's another thing you have to commend, is that they felt they respected her enough to keep that going to where we could even know about her today. Because had they not done that, we wouldn't know anything about her. They would have run across some artifact somewhere that had her name on it, and they'd be like, who the hell is this woman? Whatever. And they'd move on. They kept the name going. That's why anyone pays any attention to her now.
Well, and that's where I feel like if they came across, for instance, a coin, they'd be like, oh, wow, this was the mother of the king. Okay.
Yeah.
Like they would know that
Yes.
she was basically the king.
Yes.
He was 8.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's all about region for a lot of these different women that we know anything about. I mean, Marie Antoinette, you had no other choice but to really know about her because she was involved in everything. But these women that weren't as involved in everything that took place long before that was a choice that they made. And they made the right choice because I'm glad I got to know about her.
I love too that in terms of her and like connecting herself with the legacy of Cleopatra, it's not just like she said, like, yeah, I'm descended from her. And again, maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. We don't know the family tree. But she would like collect antiques. Did you come across this? Like that allegedly, like this wine goblet belonged to Cleopatra. Like she, presumably when she was in Egypt, like she liked to have Cleopatra's things around her, or things that she said or people claimed were Cleopatra's things, because she was just like, this is my role model, like this is my ancestor, and like, you know, like someone who now today is like a fan of whatever, Princess Diana or something. It's like, I got this plate, I have this teacup, like you just want to have these things around.
Yeah, she definitely wanted to emulate her as much as she possibly could. But I mean, when you revere someone to that level, why not? I mean, what else back then? What else did you have to hold on to? So you know, and that was quite a legacy to hold on to, because everyone knew about Cleopatra, whether they talked about her good or bad. Everyone knew about Cleopatra. So, I mean, why not try to as closely align yourself with as much of what she did as possible?
That's what's so fascinating to me, because Rome, for this whole time, had been writing about Cleopatra as this horrible villain, this like overly sexual woman. No woman in Rome would have been like, oh, this is Cleopatra's wine goblet. But Zenobia knew that outside of Rome, she was a hero to other people. So that's what's interesting, because I've always come across the Roman writings about Cleopatra, which are so anti.
Yes.
So that Zenobia, I love that she was like celebrating this legacy. It just shows that other people clearly would have been too, that everyone didn't hate Cleopatra.
Exactly. And that was her in when it came to going down to Egypt. She respected her. She held her in high regard enough to where the Egyptians were like, she respects our heritage. She respects our way of life. This can't be a bad person to allow to come in and free us from the Romans. It really all worked in her favor.
I just love, there's so much, again, like Roman propaganda we still see today, but like they were great or whatever. But I love that there was so many people who hated the Romans back then, and they just teamed up together to all hate, like the Egyptians, the people from Palmyra. Everyone's just like, oh, we all hate Rome. Let's work together. Like, I love that.
They were like everyone's bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they would view themselves as everyone's savior, as everyone's, we made you civilized and this and that and the other. Whereas the world fucking hated you. Everyone in any civilized society hated you. I mean, come on. You have to know this. Otherwise, people wouldn't be fighting against you the way they are. But yet they kept going through life like everything came straight from the right hand of God on everything that they were doing. And it's just like, how oblivious can you be to your reality? They really walked around with rose-colored glasses on, where they only see what they wanted to see. They only wrote about what made them look good. They only thought what made them feel better about themselves. And we see how that worked out for you.
The next move we see Zenobia make is kind of similar to what her husband had done before, where she kind of pretends to be subservient to the Romans, but she's not really. And that's partially because she wants to continue the export of Egyptian grain to Rome. Like, she needs to keep this kind of trade partnership. So we have another coin moment. She puts out coins with the emperor on one side and her son on the other side to be like, look, we work together. I'm totally not in charge myself. Like, we're a team. But it's again, it's like pretended deference. Like, so she was able to kind of keep Rome from invading her by pretending that she was under their command, but really she was not.
No. And this is where people would say that she was scheming and she was doing whatever, because obviously you have to understand what you have to do to survive, and she was really doing what she needed to do to survive. You had to make them feel a certain way about themselves, otherwise they would stomp their feet and come after you. So I don't think that it was necessarily she was scheming. I think she was not saying she didn't have other ambitions. And like I said, I can't judge. If you have that kind of power, go ahead, girl, get it all. But I really do believe that up until she just really started taking over more territories, it was just all about just trying to play nice with Rome, just so her country, her kingdom could have everything that they needed. And they were so self-sufficient that they didn't need the Romans. So as long as they kept the Romans happy with paying their taxes and putting his face on a coin and all that stuff, they could continue to live the life that they wanted to live. And I think that was more important to her. The overall well-being and life that her subjects had, I think that drove everything that she did.
So we've got, honestly, I didn't realize until we started doing this, but like yet another coin-based update. So she's becoming like, she's doing these coins that are like her son on one side, the Roman emperor on one side, but then eventually by 272 Common Era, she starts minting coins with just her son on them. So she's kind of signaling kind of rebellion against Rome, but also kind of being like, we don't really need you, Rome. The coins, she added Juno Regina, so like referring to herself as kind of a Roman goddess. She issued a coin of herself, calling herself Augusta, which is the name for the empress. So at this point, the Roman emperor, we've gone through so many, but now it's a guy called Aurelian. And so he was basically, he's just like, enough is enough. Like, I can't, like, maybe he didn't have other battles to fight or something, but he was just like, time for me to take, like, these coins are too much.
It always goes back to the coins.
Well, I don't know. She's just like, she couldn't do press releases, so she just did coins. And so he says, he's just like, I can't take any more of these coins. But also it's like, on these coins, she's portraying herself as basically a goddess. She's being like, I am the supreme being. And it's like, okay.
That's a step too far for them.
You're taking this a bit too far. Exactly. And so he brings out his soldiers are coming to, so they're headed off for Palmyra and also for Alexandria, which, as you described, are like very far apart cities. Mm-hmm. Like, this is where it's kind of challenging that her lands are so spread apart. Eventually, like when the Romans like decide to, when they have enough troops, they're not busy with other battles and they can focus on it. Like, they're so heavily regimented, organized. Like, these are like,
you're hard pressed to beat them.
when they focus on you like this. Yeah, exactly. So cities surrendered. Alexandria was captured. Egypt was reclaimed by Rome. Zenobia withdrew her troops to defend Palmyra and Syria. Even though she knew she was outnumbered, she continued to release coins, calling herself Augusta, as well as erecting statues of herself as Augusta of Rome, the equal of the emperor. Which is, I love this for her. I love that she's like fighting the battles and she's like, okay, you fight the battle. You make a statue. I need some new coins. Like, we need to have coins, statues, soldiers, like everything.
But at that point, when you find out that he's bringing, the might of his army for you, that's when she was kind of like, fuck it. I'm just going to do it all. Just, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory. I want you to do all of this. I mean, And honestly, why not? I mean, because when you know that the Roman army and the emperor are coming after you, you might as well be picking out your plot in the cemetery, because that's likely how it's going to end for the vast majority of you. So that's why, I mean, tits out, girl. Just do it and do it big, because But why not? What do you have to lose?
I'm picturing like not just the statues and the coins, but the T-shirt that you suggested earlier. It's like her on the throne being like, "Let's go" or whatever. I feel like she has those T-shirts. She's everyone in Palmyra wearing those T-shirts. They're all just "This is our queen."
Yes, absolutely.
So anyway, like everyone is still behind her. But there is Zabdas, her general, meets Aurelian. There's this huge battle in May or June of the year 272 Common Era. The Romans win a decisive victory. So Zenobia is just like, okay, what am I going to do next? And so she declares that she's just like, that's not what happened. Fake news.
Yes.
She found
that's not really what I meant.
Like, guess what? We actually won. So she declared that the Emperor Aurelian had been captured. She found a man who looked like him and paraded him through the streets to say, like, I caught the Emperor. Look, here he is.
Yes.
And this caused so much chaos that she and her troops were able to escape.
But think about it. I mean, how smart do you have to be to come up with a plan like that? And I've read where they tried to say that the scholar that she had with her, the Roman scholar, that he was actually the one that was telling her all the things to do. It wasn't actually her that came up with the ideas because, God forbid, a woman was smart. Yeah. But because Romans just didn't believe women could be smart. And so to come up with a plan like that and then to execute it at the level that she did to where it confused everyone. I mean, that right there, that's probably why Rome hated her the most, is because she made them look stupid, and they absolutely couldn't have that. But man, oh man, I wouldn't ever think about doing something like that.
This is like when things like this happen on this podcast, I just have started thinking of them as it's like a Bugs Bunny ass plan. It's like when Bugs Bunny puts on a dress and he's like, "Oh, I'm a beautiful lady." Everyone's like, "Oh, look at that beautiful lady." It's like they put Bugs Bunny in a toga and they're like, "Oh, it's the Emperor. I guess that's the Emperor." Like, it's such a Bugs Bunny plan, and it works.
It worked big time because she got up out of there with no problems. And it's just like, really? I mean, you don't even have to win in battle. You accomplished something that I don't remember ever reading anyone else doing in anything. And it's just like, yes, that is why I love Zenobia.
I love it. I love these unconventional, goofy ass strategies, but also, like you were saying before, like the average person on the street didn't know what the emperor looked like, didn't know what the king looked like. So I don't know what Aurelius allegedly looked like, but you don't really need to find a doppelganger. You just get some guy, put a laurel crown on him and be like, "Look, it's the emperor." Like, no one knows what the emperor looks like.
And in that region, you could parade around any white man you wanted to, and they'd be like, "Oh, yeah. Okay, that's him." That's all she had to do.
Yes, exactly. I love it. So they escape. Aurelian, the real Aurelian, who actually did win. I love just the concept of being like the Romans won, and she was just like, "No, they didn't. No. Let's just tell everyone they didn't win," because, like we were saying before, like there's not newspapers, there's not the internet. Like, you just spread rumors, and then everyone believes it. Like,
yeah.
It's so
Rome, it happened so quickly after the defeat that Rome didn't have time to spread the word that they had won. So, you act quick enough, you can dictate what everyone believes. And that's exactly what she did.
It's so smart. All the people who like worship Julius Caesar or Napoleon, and they're like, "Oh yeah, these great men, like these great battle strategies." It's like, no, Zenobia. Like, yes. This is who you should be emulating. So anyway, obviously, like, they escape, but then Aurelian like chases after her because, she's the leader of this army. So they assemble all the soldiers for battle. Zabdas is there. I love it's the two Z names, Zenobia and Zabdas are like.
And he was like her right-hand man. Yeah. He was involved in everything. He was right there. He was like on Game of Thrones with Daenerys.
Yeah.
and what's his name? Always there, protecting her, fighting for her, dying for her. That was him.
I love this relationship. I respect that he's just like, this is my monarch. This is my leader. Like, everything is for her.
Yep.
And so there's a battle. The Romans, maybe taking a hint from her, they pretend to retreat but then don't really.
And come back and win, yes. And that is actually an excellent strategy, because you start seeing your enemy running away. What's the first response? You start chasing them. You're not paying attention to anything else that's happening around you. You don't see if anyone's hiding anywhere. You just start chasing them. And it's been proven time and time again that it's not the best thing to do, because you get up at the top of the hill, you see the army was waiting for you at the bottom of the hill, and they come and they squash you. But they fell for it, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. So Rome wins this time. She's not able to spin that in a different way. But this is where the story, there's a bit of kind of like unclear what actually happens to her after this. But we know that she fled to Palmyra. Aurelian blockaded Palmyra. Apparently, she wrote a letter. Like, he demanded she surrender, and she allegedly wrote a letter. I'm going to quote from it. Allegedly, she wrote this: "You order my surrender as though not knowing that Cleopatra chose to perish while queen rather than live with any other stature. We do not lack Persian aid, which we now anticipate. The Saracens support us. The Armenians support us. Syrian robbers have defeated your army, Aurelian." So she's basically like, fuck you. I'm not going to surrender.
And I got people standing behind me ready to fight with me. And the funny thing is they as a kingdom must have never really faced a lot of people trying to take over, because from what I understand, they had no fortification. They didn't have big walls. They didn't have anything that you would normally have around a big city to protect you from invasion. So that's what made it so easy for him to get in, because there was nothing stopping him. And you have to wonder why. I mean, was it really just that tranquil in that kingdom to where she just didn't need it? Or was she arrogant and thinking that she would never need it? It's interesting to me that they had no fortification around the city.
Yeah, it's really, it's a show of confidence on one level to just be like, we got this. But on the other level, it is kind of like, it's too bad you didn't have any fortification.
Yeah, it's a slight bit of arrogance there, because back in those days, you never knew who was going to come after you, and the Persians were always showing up at your doorstep. So you should have had something somewhere.
Speaking of the Persians, so like, you might think that the story is ending, but it's not. Like, this is where in another story, another emperor, another queen, like, she would have been captured by now, but guess what? She's still not. So she writes this letter being like, fuck you, I'm never going to surrender. She escapes from the city on a camel with her son. And her plan is to reach the Persian Empire and ask for help for them, because she knows the Persians hate the Romans. Maybe they'll help her. I just love the visual of like, this. Of course, they escaped on a camel. Like, that's the animal that they have there. But I'm just like, there's something so extra about escaping on a camel. It just seems like so much cooler than escaping on a horse somehow. I don't know.
You're right, because everyone always gets on a horse and dashes away. A camel only goes so fast. I'm sorry. And if you have two people on a camel, it's probably not sprinting. It's not running. It's just walking. And if you've seen a camel walk, they have this such leisurely stride that they don't have a care in the world. They're going to go at their own damn pace. If you like it, they're going to spit in your face.
Like, you see them, sometimes they just like sit.
They just sit and you fall off.
So she does bravely attempt to escape from the city on a camel with her son to reach the Persian Empire. She arrived at a boat on the Euphrates, but she and her son, Vabalithus, who by now is an adult, I guess, they were seized by Aurelian's men. So she's brought back, put on trial for treachery along with her son and her advisors. The advisors were executed, but she and Vabalithus were sentenced to house arrest in Rome. This is interesting that they did not execute her.
Yes. It's not typical because, like I had mentioned earlier, if you go up against Rome, you know what the end result is going to be. You are going to die. So, she got the Anna Cleves treatment on that one. She was sent to a castle far away, or villa for her. And as long as you did what you were told, you could live out the rest of your life in pretty much peace. And from what I understand, she wasn't hurting for anything while she was there.
It's so interesting. So one of the reasons initially, I think, that she wasn't executed is because they wanted to do this thing. We saw this in the Cleopatra story. Like what Rome likes to do is take, like, we caught this person from another place, like we had this military victory, and they like parade them.
They have the triumph, yes. And do you want to go into detail of what a triumph is?
Could you explain, please?
So a triumph is basically, well, we've seen someone attempt one here. A triumph is basically a huge parade lauding yourself. And it's really, if you don't do it like on a weekly basis kind of thing. This is only done if you've done something big, if you've captured someone big, if you've invaded someplace big. It has to be a big, just like shifting event for you to have a triumph, because it was huge and I'm sure it cost a lot of money. You would have a lot of different street entertainers going, walking through the parade, doing like fire eating and all that kind of stuff. You would have a lot of vendors selling stuff. It would just be a whole citywide gathering parade. Just I'm picturing like confetti and everything kind of thing. But you would have a wagon, usually a horse-drawn, but I think when they were really trying to make you look bad, they would actually use a mule. And it would be carrying whoever it was they captured, typically tied to a post on this wagon. And you would parade them through the people and show this person thought they were better than Rome, but now we've got them tied up. From what I understand, she wasn't on a wagon. She walked the parade. And I'm sure you read the same thing I did. She was wrapped in golden chains, and they were so heavy that it was difficult for her to walk. And she stumbled a number of times because of the weight of these golden chains. Now, if you really think about it, if something is pure gold and it's solid gold, it's heavy. Gold is heavy when you have a big amount of it. And if they had her wrapped in golden chains, I don't know how that woman even stayed on her feet, because that would be so heavy. But they had her in the triumph, parading her along, showing that she thought she was better than Rome. And now here we got her in chains. And that's what they did. That was Rome's way of trying to show everyone within their city walls that they were still dominant. And then word of mouth would get out there that this is what the Romans did to the person that went against them. Let's not do that, because I don't want to end up in their triumph. So it was a whole PR thing. Good stuff within their city walls, bad stuff outside of the city walls to get people to fall in line.
But this is where, in terms of the triumph, like this is where sometimes whatever person they captured, like a female ruler like this or a male military, like this is where sometimes a Roman person would kill themselves rather than be subject to this. Like this is where you see people like Cleopatra killing herself. You see like people are just like, they don't want this humiliation. Zenobia, she's carrying these chains. I'm just feel like, I don't know. I feel like, you know what? She had core strength. She had
she had something. She was doing Pilates or something, because there's no way I could do it.
No, I feel like she's been she's strong enough that they're like, carry these chains. She's like, bet. Yeah, you know how much I can lift? Don't worry about it. I'm Zenobia. Like, I got this. Pilates.
And you know, I think I read that her son was actually paraded in that triumph too, but they don't go in. I haven't seen any detail of what they did to him, but they took both of them back to Rome. So I know he had to be part of that triumph. They wouldn't let him sit on the sidelines. They would want to parade him along too, because his was the first face that was put on a coin. So you gotta go for that one.
You gotta show he's there too. But yeah, so this is where I mentioned before, like, we're not quite sure. We know that these are things that happened. We know that she was captured. We know that she was in the triumphal parade. After this, it's kind of like where, you know, the Roman historians are just like, let's just not talk about her anymore. So some people theorize maybe she did kill herself. Some people like, we don't know exactly what happened, but what seems likely is what you said, that she was just kind of put in house arrest. So she was apparently given a villa near the Tiber on the condition that she lived quietly. So what Kate Williams wrote here in her book is, Zenobia was worth more to Aurelius alive than dead, a living reminder that no queen should defy Rome. But like living in a villa, I'm like, sure.
Right?
Okay.
Like I said, she got the Anacleus treatment on that one. Yeah. She did the same thing. You beheaded and killed all the other wives? Cool. I will go to this castle over here, live out the rest of my life on your dime. Just, I mean, why wouldn't you? Granted, she probably still wished that she could have been there helping and taking care of her people, because ultimately I think that was always her goal, was to make sure that she could provide the best life for her people as she could. So I'm sure that that tormented her for the rest of her life, that she was miles and miles away in this villa and her people could possibly be suffering in some sort of way. That to me was probably one of the things that Aurelian thought of when he put her there, because he knew that that would torture her for the rest of her life. And so
Yeah.
to leave her out there with her own thoughts, I mean, that's a huge form of torture in and of itself. So, and you know how the Romans love to just be vindictive on everything that they did. So I'm pretty sure that that was, if that's really what happened, that was a big reason why he did it. I also read that she married some Roman
A woman
senator.
senator.
Yes. And I mean, that right there would provide for a really good life.
That's the thing. So it's like that's what I read too, that she married a Roman senator. Her son might have also married into a political family. She might have, at this point, she's like in her 30s or early 40s. So she may have had further children. So it's interesting. Like, thank you for clarifying, because I was just like, this doesn't seem like a punishment to me. But if she was so passionate about her people, like, there would be that. But also, I feel like she's just someone who can pivot. Like, I think she's just like, okay, I can't be there for my people, but how can I be here for my son and for my other children? How can this is my situation. Okay.
Then make the best of it. Yeah.
She's not in solitary confinement. Like, she's in a villa. She's got a husband who's a senator, which means she's going to have like a pretty luxurious, expensive life. Like,
yeah, but the funny thing is you don't find the name of that senator anywhere. You don't hear about anything that he ever accomplished. You don't hear anything about any possible children that they had. Those two people, well, three of her son too, they vanished to history. All you hear is any kind of speculation that she was sent to this villa and she married this Roman senator and then cut to black. It's just it. You don't hear anything else.
Yeah. Well, and this is where like we get to like no statue of Zenobia remains. We have only the coins. That's how we keep your legacy. This is how we know about the coins. Some coins exist. There's some inscriptions and a Roman biased history, presenting her as kind of this evil villain. But then, like you said, like there's, the grandmother to the children, and like in Syria, in the places where she was celebrated, like the story continues on through like oral storytelling and things like that.
Yeah. Because again, if that had not taken place, we wouldn't know anything about her, because she was basically barely a footnote with the Romans and nothing else existed of her, any statues or anything. So how would you know anything she ever did unless it was just passed down by generation to generation?
I appreciate that. That's where it's a challenge for people like us who are like trying to read the histories, because what's written generally is like what the Romans wrote and then how the Victorians found that and translated it. And like now we've got it. And that's what's in English for me to read. But the more people who kind of write down, well, here's the stories like from the culture. And so we can learn as much as we can just from oral histories and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much has been lost to history. So many things that would have you and I up until 1 o'clock in the morning reading about it. And the only reason we go to bed at that time is because we got tired, and we'd be right back up at 6 o'clock in the morning reading more. So it's really unfortunate that we don't have more on her, because just the stuff that we do have is so fascinating. And I think it's thought provoking. It makes you think about what could have possibly happened, what could have been her motives, Did she really sit on that throne and be like, fuck you, let's do this, So it's like, it leaves so much stuff open to interpretation. And I like the interpretations I come up with because she's just a badass. So
I can't see any other interpretation. Like based on like the few facts that we know, it's like we know that, Palmyra won this battle. We know that she took over Egypt. We know that everyone supported her. It's like these things are true. We know she made these coins. It's like, there's no other possible explanation except like she was that girl. Like she was it. She was able to do it. Like you were saying, it's like, how do we get this power for ourselves? How do we get?
Exactly. I mean, I want to be like the Pied Piper and have all of them following behind me. I mean, come on, I deserve that, don't I? No.
we need our own Zabdas who's just there being like, whatever you want, ma'am. I will do it. I will lead these 70,000 men. You want Egypt? Got it. Like, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Egypt is like, welcome, please.
Right. Anything to get rid of the Romans. And again, I cannot imagine being so oblivious to what the reality of life was, that they had to know they were hated universally. They had to know. How do you ignore that and think you're going to keep going? You can't. I mean, logic dictates that eventually it's all going to end for you. That's just the way it is. You can't have that many nations against you and stay in power. It doesn't work that way. And she had so many nations that were technically on her side. She just wasn't big enough to go against the might of Rome. That was the only reason why she fell, is the size difference.
Yeah. And I don't know, just again, like the strategies, even when it seemed like you're saying, it's like Rome is coming to get her and she's like, okay, like, let's go in a blaze of glory, like make the statues, make the coins. And then they come and she's like, guess what? I don't accept that loss. I'm going to say we won. I'm going to get a fake emperor. Like, she's just like.
Yes, it was just, it might have been delusional in a way, but you know what? It was one of the better types of delusion where, she was just going to accomplish everything she could possibly accomplish until she just couldn't anymore. And
yeah,
I mean, what better way to go out? And then on top of it, she gets a villa and a senator husband. I mean, come on. She seems like the winner to me.
It's funny. There's a TV show that I watched a few years ago, but it still comes to mind. I, Claudius, the like 1970s miniseries. And there's so many times in that series that talks about like Judeo-Claudian, like those people. Like, anyway, where somebody betrays the emperor or something, like, I'm going to send you off to this island villa by yourself. And I'm like, this doesn't sound like punishment. And the people in the show are like, no, anything but that. And I'm like, please send me.
Exactly.
On this like secluded, like Mediterranean island villa, like, okay.
And most likely you had plenty of servants. I mean, you never had to worry about food and there was plenty of wine flowing. I mean, you had everything you could want. You just weren't in the society anymore. Big deal. I'm an introvert anyways. Send me.
You and me would love it. It's just funny to me. It happens like 2 or 3 times in that series where the emperor is like, yeah, I'm going to send you off to this villa. And they're like, no. And I'm like, I'm like Googling, like, is that island still around? Ooh, it looks nice. Like,
yeah. And it probably looked even better back then.
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed pretty nice to me. But to Romans, that was like the ultimate insult.
Okay.
I hope that Zenobia was like us. Like, she had fought for so long. Maybe she was like, you know what? Let's have a nice retired life. Like the Romans were like, this is going to punish you. And she's like, sure, yeah, I feel punished. And then she just bring me the wine. Like,
come on, kids, let's go. Right?
Oh no, I'm in such misery. Do. Like,
yeah, it just, yeah. But the thing is that the Roman Empire was all about high society. And they constantly had their parties, their dinner parties, and they had their public functions. They were a very let's get together and do something kind of society. They weren't loners when it came to everyone that was part of the upper echelon. They were always doing something together. So to them, being cast out of that would be considered to be a punishment. I wouldn't feel that way, but they did. And I can kind of understand why they would keep doing it to people, because that to them would have been like one of the worst things that could have ever happened.
But this reminds me of, I was just going to think, sorry, this might have been what you're about to say, but like, I feel like for you and me, so when we were in like COVID lockdowns and stuff in like 2020, like I have friends who are real extroverts and they were struggling, like to be at home by themselves and to not get to go out. Like they were, and I was like, wow, I really am an introvert. Cause I was like, this is the dream.
Yes.
I'm working from home with my cat every day.
No one's asking me to go anywhere.
No, I was just like this, but like people were struggling. So it's like, yeah, I can see that's a punishment for some people. For you and me, it would not be so much.
Yeah, if there was not one neighbor on the block that I live on, I would be in heaven. I mean, I wouldn't ever have to see anyone, hear anyone. I don't have to give them the fake hi wave. I don't have to do any of that. I have lived here for a number of years, and I know the name of one person that lives by me. I don't know anyone else because I am never outside because number one, it's just too hot here. But number two, I don't want to get to know you. I would rather be in my house because this is where I pay to live, and I'm going to enjoy every square foot of it while I'm paying for it.
I hope that was Zenobia's vibe too. I hope that she enjoyed her.
And it might not have been at first because, like I said, she probably was really worried about her people. But once time went on, she seems like a logical enough person where she would have accepted this is just how things are. Let me make the best of my situation. I mean, because honestly, why sit and torture yourself for the rest of your life? I'm not saying that they never crossed her mind again until the time of her death. I'm just saying she just realized dwelling on it wasn't going to help her. So she just move on and enjoy what the senator can provide for her.
So we've got 4 categories that we always do on this podcast to score people. And I'm very intrigued to see where her score. So the maximum total highest score is a 40 out of 40. So it's 4 categories, 0 to 10 for each one. The first category, Gina, is scandaliciousness. How scandalous was Zenobia seen in her time? And where I'm kind of torn with this is like the Romans were like, who are you making these coins? And yet in Palmyra, in Egypt, they're all just like, hell yeah, love this. So it's like she wasn't scandalous to those cultures, but to Rome she was. So on a 0 to 10, I don't know where that would put her.
If you have to combine them, I would say that her people, the level would outweigh what Rome thought of her. Rome, they would have her like on an 8 or 9, but her people would probably have her at like a 1 or 2. So I would say I would probably have to put her at like maybe a 4.
Yeah, to kind of average it out. Because it's interesting where like, it's funny. It's interesting. Like, I made these categories years ago, but it is interesting with people like her where it's like she's scandalous to some people, but not to other people. And the people that matter to her are her people. And they were behind her 100%. They didn't find any of this scandalous. So I think a 4 is fair to average out. Haters in Rome.
Yes.
For people who are just like, hell yeah, go to war. The next category, though, is so scheminess, coming up with plans and strategies. And I feel like this is where she really excelled. Like, not just the like Bugs Bunny ass plans, but all of her strategies of like the coins to be like, you know what, let's take over Egypt. Like, let's go up against her. Like, she knew when to do the thing and how to do it in a big picture way. And then like her small picture, like Bugs Bunny strategies were also.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at the map of at the height of everything, the size of the overall kingdom she had, it was huge. Obviously it was no Rome, but it was huge. And so that wasn't just given to her. She just didn't wake up one day and be like, hey, I'm the queen of all of this. That's not how that worked. So she had to have some sort of level of scheming to her. And plus, like you said, with the Bugs Bunny ass plan, she had a scheming mind. She did. Not necessarily scheming in the bad way that people view it.
Yeah. This is a complementary category. Scheming versus positive.
Because it's not one of those, oh, that damn bitch. It wasn't like that. It was like, oh, damn bitch. you know? There's a difference in how you say that one when it comes to her. So I would have to put her pretty high up there. I would probably put her at like maybe a 8.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that she just, I don't know, between her and whoever it was she had truly advising her, they had it figured out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of it too. It's like part of being a good leader is having the correct people with you, advising you. Not that they're telling you what to do, but you have people telling you like now, like, ooh, maybe not that right now. Like, like she clearly, it's not like she's not a one-woman show, but like she's the head of these decisions. She's making these decisions and she knows when to make that coin, like when to release the new coin, like when to put up the statue. It's like she's got it all figured out. The next category is her significance. And that's just like significance to like history.
A lot of people, because there's not a lot of information that exists about her, would say she wasn't significant, but I 100% disagree with that.
Well, and if we look at her people, if we look at Syria, like she's on the banknotes. Like,
yes, exactly.
She's like the person.
And like I said earlier, there's been numerous plays and movies and TV shows made about her, books written about her, her just mentioned in numerous things. It might not even be about her, but she's mentioned. I mean, how many people can say that you are that known, yet how could someone say that you weren't significant? I would have to put her pretty high up there for significance, at least for her region, because she played a major role in, number one, keeping them from getting squashed by the Persians. And she held off the Romans as long as she possibly could. It just, the size difference just made it impossible for her to completely win that one. So I have to put her like probably at a 7. I'd say a 7 was pretty, 7 or 8 is pretty fair for her.
I'm going to round it up to 8 just because I like her so much. And the final category is what we call the sexism bonus, which is like how much did the patriarchy get in her way? And I feel like her culture, like in Palmyra, there wasn't, like, she was able to take over. Everybody supported her. Like, I feel like that didn't get in her way there. Rome is the patriarchy, but this category is more kind of like, you know, how much more could she have maybe accomplished if she was a man? And I feel like it could have been equivalent if a man was.
She could have possibly even won, because the Persians might have automatically came and helped her if it was a man. She wouldn't have even, a man probably wouldn't even had to have asked for that. And if you combine those two mights against Rome, Rome would have fallen. So I'd have to say she should get like at maximum points for that, because I mean, she just accomplished so much, and with a certain level of ease. That's the part of it that gets me, is the level of ease that she had on being at the level that she was at, and just how that got under the skin of the Romans so easily.
And like the fact that she was a woman, that's interesting, because to score that is interesting, because the level of ease makes me feel like it's a low score for sexism because she was able to accomplish a lot. But then the fact that she was a woman made the Romans hate her
even more. Yes.
Yes. So it's like both sides. Yeah.
And I can't even imagine the propaganda machine that was going on about her within the city walls of Rome. I mean,
especially when she's being like comparing herself to Cleopatra. They're just like, yes,
they all hated too. Yes.
Yeah, it's the new Cleopatra. She's also like a whore, like whatever. Like I'm sure like the graffiti against Zenobia, you know, I'm sure it was there.
I can't even begin to imagine the level of it within Rome, and how all the ladies of high society would be at their tea parties talking bad about her because that was what they heard about her. And she just didn't know her place as a woman, and she needed to go back to the kitchen and do whatever it was they were doing, they thought that she needed to be doing. So I think she actually probably deserves quite a bit of a score when it comes to the sexism bonus, because just with the exception of her particular region, everything else would have been going against her.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, it's you know, she was Zenobia, if this is a man who had.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Zenobia's.
Zenobia's. How, maybe Rome would have, I don't know, a male Zenobia could have taken over and become the emperor. I don't know. So where would you put that on like a 0 to 10 scale?
I would probably put her at like a 6 or 7.
So this gives her a total score of 27 points. And I just want to, for comparison, listeners, if you want to see the whole scale, it's on my website at vulgarhistory.com. There's like a thing that says scores, because there's an awful lot of them. But if you want to see where your faves are, or if you want to like find an episode to listen to based on the numbers, I just want to see where she compares to other people who you and I have talked about. Let's see. 27 is honestly a pretty popular score.
Because there's so many things to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Especially with the women that we've talked about.
So, for instance, Cleopatra's got a 28. So they're in the same neighborhood, certainly. And I think Hatshepsut has got a 29.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. And then let me see, where is Nefertiti is 31.5.
Because, I mean, I'm not even going to rehash that episode. If y'all want to hear what I had to say about her, go back and listen to the Nefertiti episode. But I'm sorry, Akhenaten was the pharaoh and he was the face of everything. But I truly believe she was running shit. I'll go to my grave believing that.
I think everybody, if this is your first experience of Gina as a guest, like go back, like there's Hatshepsut. We did an episode about Livia. We did an episode about women in ancient Rome. We did Nefertiti. Like just scroll back. Like you can find other episodes with Gina. But Gina, if they like hearing you and me talking, do you want to tell them our exciting news?
Drum roll, please. Anne came up with a brilliant idea. And because I love what we do together so much, I agreed instantly. We are starting a new podcast. It is called NeferTV. Gotta love the name. I mean, as soon as she told me, I was absolutely on board with that.
Yeah.
What we are going to do is we are going to be reviewing historical television shows. We might go into movies later on, but for now, we're going to do television shows. And we are starting with the first season of the Spartacus series that was on the Starz network. And we are going to go episode by episode. Obviously, I'm going to be all about the history because that's how my brain works. And Anne, you will be doing...
I'll be doing vibes. I'm here for vibes. Well, because also the Spartacus show, like you've watched it before.
Numerous times.
No, and I've never watched it before. So I'm just coming in as like a newcomer to this show just to be like, who are these characters? And you can explain to me, oh, this is based on this in history. So you're coming in with the historical facts and I'm just coming in with like hot takes, basically.
There's plenty going on in every episode of this series. It is a bloody good time, pun intended. It revolves around Roman hierarchy, Roman society, not within Rome, within Capua, a city of the Roman Empire. It revolves around gladiators, which I have looked into a great deal because everything about them is just so fascinating to me. Unfortunately, they only talked about a woman gladiator in that last series, House of Asher. But they were fascinating as well. But just everything about the series was fascinating to me because no one can actually prove that Spartacus really truly existed. No one knows if it's just a story or if it's just loosely based on someone that existed but didn't quite do as much as he did. I don't know. I don't care. I love the show. And I don't remember how we decided to do that one for the first show. But I'm glad we did.
I think if we wanted, like, I wanted to do something that's like, all the shows we're going to do, and we're just starting with Spartacus. We'll see what we do next. But like, one or the other of us should be watching it for the first time, I think. And I've never watched Spartacus. But also, I feel like ancient Rome is just like your comfort zone.
It is. And we're gonna broaden it to other things. I think we mentioned Bridgerton at one time. I know it's not ancient, but that is something that I don't know a lot about. And you do.
God knows. I know a lot about the Regency era. God knows.
God knows. So, yes, tune in. It'll be coming.
When this episode comes out, they're able to follow it. So you just look up NeferTV, wherever you get your podcast, and you can like follow. And then the first episode is going to be coming out next week from when you hear this.
So, yes, I'm super excited about it because I love talking history with Anne, and we always find very colorful ways of talking about history. And there's going to be a lot of colorful things to talk about with this series because it's got a lot of color to it. It's just, there's so much going on in every episode that I'm not even going to be able to cover everything that goes through my brain, but it's just going to be a good time. And I know everyone is going to enjoy it because Anne and I are going to enjoy it. So there's no way you can't enjoy it. It's just, it's just going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, part of it is just like, it's a way for me and Gina to stay in touch and to like hop on a call every couple of weeks. So the episodes are going to come out on Mondays, and it's like once it starts, it's like every other week. So it's not going to be like too demanding of you all. Like you can watch the episode, you'll have 2 weeks to watch an episode, then hear our next podcast, like plenty of time. I don't want people to feel like I'm giving too much content. where they can't keep up with it. It's like, no, every other week, the episodes we're going to work our best. We'll see how this goes to try to make the episodes be like an hour or so. So it's not like too much work for my very hardworking editor, Christina, who I was like, hey, Christina, what if I started another episode? And she's like, she just went back to school and stuff. And she's like, ugh. And I'm like, what if it's an hour only every other week, audio? And she's like, okay. So,
and we promised we were going to do our best to keep it to an hour.
And honestly, if it goes over an hour, then we'll just like split it up into multiple episodes. So like each
exactly.
episode. Yeah.
Because to be honest, there are some episodes of the series where I'm not so sure we're going to be able to cover it in 1 hour because just so much happens. And just that's why I've watched them so many times, because I see new things every time. And I mean, if I see something happening or I hear someone say something and I don't know it, I'm instantly going and I'm researching it. So there's a lot for us to talk about. And it's just, I know not everybody wants to do what we do and sit and read a research book. This is why people like Anna and I are the ones that are coming and just kind of hitting the highlights of it and kind of giving you our take on it, trying to make history easier to learn, because we love learning history. We want everyone else to love learning history. So we're going to do it in the best way we can to help you learn it. And if you want to go afterwards and learn more about it, we absolutely encourage that, because we want everyone to know about history. And we just think this is going to be a really fun way for everyone to learn about Spartacus, who is referenced by numerous different civilizations after the Romans. People have studied it, have studied some of the tactics that he used once they started fighting against the Romans. It's just, he's, I think, one of the best characters we could have chosen to start with. And hopefully everyone will find it as interesting as me. I'm sure you can tell by how I'm talking about it now, how interested I am in it. So I'm hoping you guys can get just as excited about it as I am.
I love that it's another show where like the Romans are the bad guys. Like all the week.
Yes. I mean,
not the heroes on this podcast.
Let's find anyone who ever considers them to be the heroes except themselves. I mean, honestly, because I don't know that I've ever seen it.
So NeferTV, everybody, like wherever you're listening to this podcast, just like go in your search bar. It's NEFER TV. And you'll find it there and follow. And then when the first episode comes out on Monday, it'll drop right in your little thing and then you can listen to it. And what also I think is going to be fun for people is whenever you're on this podcast, Gina, people are like, oh my God, I get these messages and I send them to you so you know, so you can feel the love. But people love your content. And like, I think people will be really excited to hear from you in a new show, in a new way, because like you don't have another other than this. Like you didn't have a podcast. You're not like, you don't have a blog. People are like, where can we follow Gina? And I'm like, well, here's her Instagram. It's like motivational memes, middle-aged ladies, which I appreciate.
Yes, that is what you're going to find on my IG. I'm always trying to encourage people in whatever way I can, because life is hard enough and most everything we see on social media is just doom and gloom. So I'm always trying to post something on my TikTok page or on my IG that hopefully bring a smile to your face, because if I found it funny, I'm probably going to share it with everyone. But make sure you also follow NeferTV on IG.
On IG, yeah. So on Instagram, we do. So follow NeferTV on your podcast app. But we have an Instagram. It's NeferTV Podcast on Instagram. And if you want to follow Gina, it's GB Dolphin.
Dolphin. And have I ever told you the story behind that?
You did, but please tell it again.
Okay, so the GB is obviously from my name, Gina Berry. Dolphin is because I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan. It's an American football team in the NFL. And back in the day, the true fans used to be called Dolphins. And so when I signed up for IG, God only knows how many years ago, I was like, okay, what am I going to have for a username? And I was like, how about GB Dolphin? And so that's kind of what I've used for pretty much everything on all of my social medias, because even though the Dolphins break my heart every year because they don't get anywhere, I'm still a diehard fan. And, I'm not a fair weather. But although they're tempting me, but GB Dolphin has always been my handle. So if you want to find me anywhere except TikTok is different, but everything else is going to be GB Dolphin.
Well, I'm excited to begin the NeferTV journey with you, and for all the listeners as well. I think it's going to be such a fun time. And again, like, you're doing all this research, and I haven't even watched episode 1 yet. I want to watch it right before we record because I want it to be like fresh on my mind. So like, I'm truly cannot be more of a newcomer to this show. I've been doing my best to not research anything. I just want to like watch it and like experience it and see what I think, and then you'll bring in all the context. So
I will do my best.
well, thank you so much, Gina, and to all the listeners. Well, again, subscribe to NeferTV podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, keep your pants on and your tits out. Vulgar History is researched, scripted, and hosted by Anne Foster. Editor is Christina Lumagi. Theme music is by the Severn Duo. Regency-era artwork by Karen Moynihan. Social media videos by Magdalena Denson. Transcripts of this podcast are available at vulgarhistory.com by Aveline Malik. You can get early, ad-free episodes of Vulgar History by becoming a paid member of our Patreon at patreon.com/AnneFosterWriter. Vulgar History merchandise is available at vulgarhistory.com/store for Americans and at vulgarhistory.redbubble.com for everyone else. Follow us on social media at Vulgar History Pod. Get in touch with me at vulgarhistorypod@gmail.com.
The war is over, and both sides lost. Kingdoms were reduced to cinders, and armies scattered like bones in the dust. Now the survivors claw to what's left of a broken world, praying the darkness chooses someone else tonight. But in the shadow dark, the darkness always wins. This is old school adventuring at its most cruel. Your torch ticks down in real time, and when that flame dies, something else rises to finish the job. This is a brutal rules-light nightmare with a story that emerges organically based on the decisions that the characters make. This is what it felt like to play RPGs in the 80s, and man, it is so good to be back. Join the Glass Cannon podcast as we plunge into the Shadow Dark every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/theglasscannon, with the podcast version dropping the next day. See what everybody's talking about and join us in the dark.
The world of Sonic the Hedgehog has been thrust into a not-so-dark, not-so-stormy hard-boiled detective story that probably nobody saw coming. Follow Sonic and the intrepid Chaotix Detective Agency as they take on their biggest case yet. This high-flying, action-packed adventure will take them across the world, fighting for every clue they can find. It's one heck of a tale, which is good, because this story might be the only thing that can save their lives.
Well, if that's all, I can just dispose of you.
Wait, what?
All will be revealed in Sonic the Hedgehog presents The Chaotix Case Files. Listen now, wherever you get your podcasts.
The Chaotix are on the case.
Reality TV is messy.
Pop culture is louder than ever.
And the internet
completely unhinged.
Welcome to Roxanne
and Chantel,
the podcast where cousins Roxanne and Chantel break down reality TV, celebrity drama, and the stories everyone's texting about.
We recap the shows,
spill the headlines,
and sit down with the stars themselves.
No filter,
no boring takes,
just the tea.
New episodes every week.
If it's trending,
we're talking about it.
This is Roxanne
and Chantel.
Let's get into it.